how to know or find your horizon line. So I thought I'd cover two of the questions. One is regarding architecture. How do we find that with architecture? And the other is how do we find that in a natural landscape? So there's a few pointers that I would like to share to show you kind of how to find those things. This piece here, this picture you see in front of you, is pretty complex. As you can see, we have multiple levels out in space that we have to deal with. So it actually adds a little bit more confusion, but if you really understand how to use the tools that I'll share with you, it'll help you find your way. The most important thing, again, is to find that horizon line. Well, an easy way to figure that out with architecture is to find something within the architecture that falls at level, meaning it's perfectly flat. And that is where your eye is falling on or out in space on this horizon line. If you'll notice, you'll find up here in this building, all these taper down to a vanishing point on the horizon line. And you'll notice down here lower, these are all tapering up to a horizon line. The secret is to find where we are level on these shingles. Now, sometimes if you don't have shingles or things like that, you can use window seals, or depending on your level, sometimes your eye will fall right at the center of the window or maybe the top of the window. And when you find that all the windows line up, or wherever on that window they line up equally, you know that that's your horizon line. So find something in your perspective space that falls equally amongst all things. Sometimes I find fence posts, like say you're in nature somewhere and you've got a fence post. If all the tops of the fence posts are all level, then you know your eye is falling level at the top of each fence post. Anyway, the goal is to find this level spot, and so I chose this these shingles here, because they're close enough to me. I'm not dealing with those buildings way in the far back to find an actual level spot. So if we pull a perfect level line, that horizon line, you'll see it falls right on that shingle where this line is absolutely level on the shingles. So we know that that is our horizon line. Now, I know that I'm standing a little taller than the deck. I'm up on a road a little higher than the deck, this area here in the picture. And so I don't know my height of that line. I've got to figure out, well, how high am I from the deck, or even how high am I from the water? I need to know the height of that line. So what I do is I can find something in our field of vision on that deck that gives me a measurement. And we know that a grill is about 4 foot high, sometimes 3.5, but 4 foot high. Let's say it's 4 foot high. Then I know I have a measurement. So I can take that measurement now and I can mark off, find the 4 foot level here, and break that 4 foot into 4 equal spaces. And then I move those 4 equal spaces, and I take those feet and then move them up. And ironically, we fall at an 8 foot height. So I know on the deck where that grill stands to the horizon line, I am 8 foot tall. That means anywhere in this deck or on this deck, if I place something where I want to put something, it's going to be 8 foot from the horizon line. So let's say I want to put a figure right where I put that mark. I can then take that and mark it off into 8 equal feet again. I can then mark off 6 foot and put my 6 foot figure or 4 foot figure, whatever you choose, within those measurements. So that gives me an idea of where I am on this forward deck. I still know that I'm higher than that deck, and I don't know my height in space to the deck, but I know the deck to the horizon line is 8 foot. Okay, Now let's jump into the back and see where it falls in this back area here on these back docks. Well, I just figured out that I've got a figure standing here. Let me bump that horizon line just for a second. You'll see that his head is moved down. If he puts his head straight up and down, we're at 6 foot at that horizon line, if that figure is 6 foot. Well, that doesn't make sense because we know from this deck I'm at 8 foot. How come he is at 6 foot? Well, there's a reason why, and we'll find out. So just to make it easy, I'll mark that and show you that that's 6 foot high. Well, if I come over here and I notice that there is a height discrepancy between these two decks where these buildings sit on. And if I take into consideration there's a drop, I can actually figure out how high that drop is. I found that it's 2.5, and the reason being is I took those 6 foot marks back in space and I marked off 6 equal feet to make 6 foot. And with that measurement, I can make this judgment here to about this judgment here, and that's about a 2.5 foot drop. Now that puts me back at about 8.5 feet on this far deck. So I can take and mark off 8.5 feet from the horizon line to the bottom of the deck. Now the reason why I know it's 8 foot is this chair, as you can see here, we know a chair is 18 inches off the ground. I can take that 18 inches and know that that's 1.5 feet. So I've created a foot. I can then proceed to mark off the feet, and sure enough, I'm left at 8.5 feet. So I'm using elements to measure from, and there's some standards like a chair, for example, or a table. They're always a standard. Anyway, so I know that from my horizon line, my frontal deck we talked about is at 8 foot. I know that this deck in the very end here puts me at 6 foot. And this deck over here on the left puts me at 8.5 feet. Now, with these measurements, I can then try to figure out where the water level is, because that's what I'm basing the height of my horizon line. So what I can do is I can then take and continually move those feet down to the water. And you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 feet at the water level. That puts me at 17 feet. So my horizon line is 17 feet off the water. Well, I can double check that. Let's go over back here to the 6 foot mark, and you will see I can do the same thing. I can take that same foot measurement from this area in space and do the same thing. And as I go down, you'll find that I have 11 feet from the water line, and sure enough, I'm at 17 feet. So there I can double check. Now I can place a figure anywhere in this space knowing that I have 17 feet from the water line. If we come back to the foreground, it's the same thing. I need to figure out where I am on this water line, and I'm not sure. So I can take my 8 foot mark that we have here, and I can move it 8 foot or more down underneath this area where the deck is, right here straight down. I can find that 17 foot mark. So what I'll do is I'll double the 8, right? I'm going down 8 foot from that spot. I'm going to add an additional foot to make it 17. Now, that spot, this area here, is actually where this post will fit from this spot, basically, right? In the water. So what I'll do is I will continue the post down. That's where the post will set on the water. Now there's a neat way that I can double check to make sure my measurement is correct. What I can do is I know that back here, this horizon line from this deck we talked about was 8.5 feet. We know the one up here in front is 8 foot. we can see that this post runs at about the 6-foot mark on the deck. We can then take from this measurement back here and do the same thing. We can make about a 6-foot post. I can extend that because I know that that's going to be about 6 foot in this 8.5-foot post. Then what I can do is I can run the vanishing point from this post back here to this post, which runs right across the top. I can do the same thing with the bottom of the post. I take that and I run it to here, and you'll see that I'm running that post, and anywhere I put in this area, that will be 16 feet as I come forward. Okay, so there's several ways to go about this, but the point is I have to know the height of that horizon line. And when you've got different areas or different levels, there's ways to use measurement to figure out that height. Now what's great is down here I can figure out the height of a boat setting in the water. Say it's 2 foot. I now know that I can set a boat in here however I need to and have it in perspective. So I hope that helps. The main key on all this was to get you guys to see how to find that horizon line, which will fall level like you see on these shingles. That's your eye level. And we can use elements in architecture to find that actual element. Now let's switch over to a perspective that's in just a natural world setting where there's no architecture. This painting is by Jim Reynolds, and James Reynolds was a brilliant painter, and don't think he didn't know or didn't use perspective in his landscapes. In fact, he was sneaky about it because he was so brilliant. The first thing we want to do is figure out where our horizon line is, right? Typically what's going to happen is we're all going to think that this horizon line back here on that far wall where the ground meets the cliff is the horizon line. Well, that can't be the case because we have this ground plane up here in the front. It is higher than what we see down here in the valley. Now, how much higher? I don't know. I can make a guesstimation. I can say 20 feet, 30 feet. I'm not sure. So I've got to find the horizon line in order to kind of know what that measurement is. And really it isn't that important. It's just I need to know the horizon line, and then I can judge how high or low this ground plane we're standing on is over the valley. Okay? So the way we can do that is, let me get rid of those. The way we can do that is we can look at these bushes. And if you notice, there are bushes that go back in space. For example, you'll see this row of bushes and how they taper back in space. Let me turn that back off for you so you can see. See how they're right in a row, and I can actually draw their circumference, okay, to kind of give the shape in space. And you'll find, sure enough, they taper to a area where they meet. Where they meet is going to be that horizon line. So I'll place that horizon line there. Now let's double check it against some other areas within some bushes. I can find other areas. For example, I see these 3 right over here. I'll remove that again for you so you can see. See how there's 3 in a row, and I can circle their shape, and I can run lines to the vanishing point. And you'll see, sure enough, they cross right on that horizon line. There's another set right here. See those 2? They're basically about the same size bush. They're just separated from each other by some distance. If I circle them and I run a vanishing point through those, look what happens. They fall right on that horizon line again. And he'll do it again. Notice these 2 right up here in the front, right? They're pretty easy to see, and they're about the same size, and they're basically almost a vertical line. If I circle them and I run a vanishing point through them on their size, look what happens. Falls right on the horizon line. So through these these elements, organic elements, I can find and place a horizon line. Now, there's no accident that he did this. He's purposely placing a few organic bushes in line and at a perspective so that somewhere the brain, when it moves to this painting, is finding those access shapes and sizes to take us back to a horizon line. Now, when we go back and we look at our original horizon line that we thought, it's really low. We know that this valley in here is much lower than what we're standing on here. And that's why this horizon line is higher than if we were standing down here and looking at this horizon line. So, I hope this helps you figure out where to find a horizon line in the natural world without the help of architecture. Okay, we can find elements in the landscape that are similar in size and find how they taper and run them to a vanishing point, which gives us a horizon line. I hope this helps you guys figure out how to find those horizon lines. It's absolutely crucial. No one covers this as enough as they should. We need to know our station point and where we stand in space, and that's why the horizon line is so important. Hi, my name is Mitch Baird, and I'm over the moon about working with you. What an opportunity. 365 days to work at your own pace, receive personal feedback, and have access to a community of growing artists. That's invaluable. Aesthetics and the art of picture making is a lifelong pursuit, full of questions and stumbling blocks, but it's also full of wisdom and rewards. In the 25 years I've been painting and teaching, I've found that there is a crucial and particular way of seeing that every artist must grasp if they want to obtain wisdom. This visual perception is so important that it will be the starting point of this course. I will share with you visual tools that will strengthen your artistic eye and that in turn will fortify your knowledge and creative abilities. There are also certain fundamentals that all artists must know and use in order to find rewards and create successful paintings. Composition is of the utmost importance, as it's the core of visual communication. I will share facets of design, arrangement, and keeping balance. Drawing will feature concepts on proportion, shape, and linear perspective, as they are the forces behind two-dimensional and three-dimensional space. The lessons on value will present insights on how to see values clearly and how the form principle affects everything in our visual field. Lastly, I will cover color, the final frontier in an artist's exploration. I will share the aspects of building a solid foundation on how to see and identify color, as well as mix it and use it with harmony. No matter your level of experience, the information shared in this course will elevate your understanding and will assist you in your search for excellence. I look forward to helping you along in your journey, as well as sharing mine with you too.